Well, we're excited to have back on the show former GOP Michigan gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon. Tudor, it's good to see you. Tudor, we've got news coming in. We have this new development. The House Education Committee widened an existing probe. It expanded this probe into anti-Semitic campus protests at Harvard. Now they're probing basically allegations of plagiarism against Harvard President Claudine Gay. And when you heard this news, what was your reaction?
Well, I think that we are seeing now that we have a university president who has likely broken what would be rules on her own campus. Now, remember, this is a president who was unable to tell you whether or not genocide was against the code of conduct. So perhaps she doesn't understand that plagiarism is also against the code of conduct. But I think it's interesting to see the community that is rallying around this and saying it's okay, look the other way on plagiarism, which they would never say to their own students. So I think it's a really interesting development, and it's an interesting development for elite universities across the nation.
So, yeah, Tudor, what you're saying is what Representative Virginia Fox, she's the chairman of House Education, she pointed that out in her letter to Harvard, that double standard, that Harvard punishes its students who plagiarize, but not its president. I mean, lawmakers found out that Harvard punished something like 70 out of 100 cases of recent plagiarism, even forcing things like probation or suspension. I mean, but there are reports of over 40 allegations of plagiarism against Claudine Gay.
Right, but I've seen critics that are coming out in her defense and saying, well, even though these students were punished in some way, they weren't expelled completely. Wait a minute, this is a totally different situation. This woman is the president of the university who is holding these students to this standard. For them to be held to that standard, the person who is the president of the university should have long before been held to that standard. And now we're being told, well, she'll rewrite them and then they won't be plagiarized. Wait, did all of these students get that chance? Instead of being punished, were they told, you know what, just rewrite it and turn it back in? There are standards for a reason. She has broken the standards time and time again. I'm glad that Harvard has shown us that this is the decision making that they're going to choose to make, because that allows those of us with young children who are looking at universities to say, Harvard won't be the university I'll send my children to.
The thing is, too, we're seeing, college consultants, they're saying that more and more high school graduates are saying, no, we don't want to go to Harvard. I mean, that's an amazing turnaround from just a year ago when people thought, this Ivy League degree from Harvard was the gold standard. Now, the high school students are saying, we don't want it. It looks like these scandals are really hitting, the blue chip degree that Harvard is selling.
They really are. I mean, my own kids I have one in high school, and she's talking about, well, how do I find a values-based university that has students that believe in the same values that I believe in? And I think that's what parents need to start thinking about. We think so strongly about it for K through 12 when we're still in our kids' lives, but now it's important to say, well, wait a minute, when they leave the house and they're influenced for 4 years by another university and professors, I want them to go to a place that holds the same things near and dear that I do. And that's why I think not only students, but I think parents as well are saying, well, if you're going to go to a university, we want to steer you toward a university that has a values-based curriculum.
Yeah, but Tudor, what you're saying, I mean, Harvard seems to be dumbing down this values-based curriculum. Now they're recasting and rebranding plagiarism, calling it duplicative language. You know what I mean? They're busting through norms and standards that America has existed on for generations.
Of course, but I don't think that any of us are being played by this. I don't think most people are going, oh, gosh, it is duplicative language. That's not plagiarism. I think most adults are looking at this and saying, wow, how ridiculous that Harvard has gone to this level. Who cares about the name Harvard anymore? I just want my child to be educated. And college, let's face it, it's part education and it's part how you learn to live on your own. I want my child to go someplace that teaches good values. And if that's not Harvard, I mean, good grief, we're hearing that the cream of the crop is now trying to dumb down plagiarism. Well, then let's find universities that are going to teach our kids right and wrong. That's pretty simple.
Got it. Tudor Dixon, come back soon. Merry Christmas to you. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Merry
You're
Christmas.
terrific.